Thanks for downloading Pave the Way Podcast. On this show, your host, Greg Helbeck, interviews the top minds in real estate, business, and personal development to help you crack the code so you can grow your business and, more importantly, grow your life. Get ready for another game-changing episode. If you want to learn how to master your day and become a productivity monster, download Greg's free guide on daily personal productivity for free at www.pavetheday.com. That's Pave the Day, spelled DAY.com. Now it's time for today's episode. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm here with Cristina Kudlock out of Phoenix and LA on the show. We're going to talk about her journey as a real estate entrepreneur and really how she has built a great business in two of probably the hardest markets in the United States, doing a strategy that I haven't had too many experts on regarding SEO. So I'm excited to meet you, I guess, virtually, and hopefully we'll meet each other soon in about a month if you're going to be in Texas. And we're in the same mastermind. We're in Investor Fuel. And I've heard that she is just the best at SEO, and I figured we'd connect, and I'm looking forward to this interview.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me on, Greg. It's nice to virtually meet you.
Yes, for sure. And you're in LA as we speak, correct?
Yes, I'm in LA right now.
Yes. Did when you landed, did you have to give Gavin Newsom $20? Because I heard that's the new law that just got passed in California.
I'm not going to lie. So I'm staying with a friend right now. That's whose house I'm at. I was a little bit nervous to fly into LA. So I was like, honestly, I'm going to drive there.
Oh, you drove? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I drove. Well, I needed my own car. So I was like, let's do that. And then the fact that I was, honestly, I'm just like, California, it scares me a little bit lately. So I just, so I was just like, I have a getaway car.
I don't blame you. It's funny. I was, my assistant lives in LA. She moved there from Kansas City, I believe. And, we met up for dinner because she's virtual, right? So like we met in the flesh for the first time, and it was pretty funny because I'm like, oh wow, you're a real person. Holy crap. Like, this is crazy. So we met in like Orange County. So we met right in the middle. And she was telling me in LA right now, I guess we're recording this in October of 2021, you still need to wear a mask in the freaking gym. Crazy up there.
I mean, everywhere. And then, they just wanted, I heard that to go into like, I think it's gyms, restaurants, and then like any kind of like to get your hair done or something, you are going to have to start showing vaccination. So I was just like, I don't feel like flying there right now.
Yeah. So, I don't blame you. Yeah.
It was a little bit of a hassle to drive, but at least because I have been driving around LA since I've been here. So I'm like, it'll just be easier to have my car.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to come to San Diego, it's wide open down here. You could do whatever the hell you want. No masks.
Even one county over in Orange County is like,
oh yeah,
relax.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Orange County's cool. Yeah. I was out to dinner there, no mask, having some, margaritas, and it was like, nothing ever happened. Well, right. you knew something happened, but it wasn't like in LA, apparently, where it's like
trying to police everyone.
Yes, exactly. Well, I'm glad you're in LA, at least for a few days, getting some business done. So let's get into kind of your journey. I mean, we've gone back and forth a little bit through text message, but I mean, honestly, when did you get started? And what made you get into the real estate game, and what's kind of your background? What did you do before this?
Yeah, definitely. So out of college, I graduated college in 2010. And right after that, that was when like prices were super cheap everywhere. And I got into it was a townhome that I bought in Phoenix. And I didn't have the intention of flipping it. I was just like, hey, this is a cheap property. My dad is really handy. So he helped me like fix it all up. And I lived there for a few years and then moved to Santa Monica, was renting it out. And so like had my feel or got my feels for, what real estate could do. And decided, I really do like real estate. So I wanted to, this was probably a few years after I bought that property, started taking real estate courses to get my license. Because that's usually what people think. You want to get involved in real estate, you go and get your license, right? So I started that, and I was just like, this is not what I want to do. Like, this is just not how I see myself, like working with going and showing houses and all that. I just didn't really see myself there. So I kind of put that aside and forgot about the real estate thing, I guess, for a little while. And when my husband and I started dating, he lived in LA and I was in Phoenix. And so we were long distance dating. And then we actually quit our jobs. We went, and at this point I was working at a logistics company. So I quit my job at the logistics company and we went and we backpacked Europe for like 5 months.
That's sick.
And yeah, it was so much fun. And when we got back, we decided that I was going to move to LA. But I had spent all my money in Europe. So when I got back, I moved to Phoenix and was like, I got my old job at the logistics company back and, was doing that. I sold this townhome that I have and, made twice what I was into it for like 54 is what I bought it for.
Oh my God. That's insane.
Dirt cheap prices. Yeah. And so I sold it and I want to say I made just under 110 on it. So I was like, wow, this is like, and then that kind of rejuvenated me about real estate again. And it was so funny because at the logistics company that I worked at, I was an executive assistant. So I was always wearing a lot of hats and doing a lot of different things. It was a smaller company too. So I started looking and my experience before that was also an executive assistant. So I had probably at least 5 or 6 years of experience doing that at this point. And so I started looking for a lot of kind of the same similar roles in Los Angeles as I'm getting ready to move there. I'm applying for tons of jobs and I never got one call back. And I even was like using what was it? Like an LA address. Cause at first I was like, maybe they don't think I'm like in LA. And it was just so funny because I put out so many resumes and never got one call back. And so one day I was just like defeated. I was at my desk, like needed to go into like a closet and cry just cause I was like, just so like defeated by this. And it was so funny because like at that time I like prayed and I'm not the kind of person who gets like quick responses to prayer, right? But this one particular instance is just so funny because like I was like, okay, collected myself. I went back to my desk and like just felt like this calming sense of peace over me and go back to my desk. And I got on Amazon and was just like looking at like ebooks, right?
Yeah.
And I picked up this ebook and it's about wholesaling. And I know it was like a $2.99 ebook. I think the author is Preston something. I can't remember.
Preston Ely.
Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Okay, that's who it is then. So yeah, I picked up this ebook and it was just so crazy how he started this ebook. He was like, you know what? If you're going to, first of all, you need to know if you're going to go on this real estate journey, like you have to have big faith in all of this. And it was just like, who starts off a real estate book like this? It was just very like, it was just crazy. So anyways, I start reading this and I had no idea about the concept of wholesaling and that's even anything you can do. Right. And so I'm like reading this book and my mind is just blown. I'm like, holy shit, you can do this. Like, this is a thing. And so I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And then that's what I did.
That is awesome. So you found a freaking ebook online.
Yeah. And and so I made that money on my house. That gave me some savings to like get started and, put towards marketing and stuff and ramped up my business. And it's been a crazy journey, but yeah, that's kind of how I discovered what wholesaling was. And
that is awesome. Good for you. That is freaking cool. Huh? Interesting. I always like to hear people's like how they got to where they're at because everyone has a little bit unique of a story,
You found it.
And that's awesome. So let me ask you this. So are you guys only doing wholesales? Or are you guys doing like taking down deals and doing like gut renos and wholetailing and like rentals? Or are you guys just straight doing assignments?
Yeah. So in LA, it's straight assignments. We've done some flips before. And honestly, I don't enjoy it. I mean, the partner that I was doing it at the time too, like when we started, he just wanted to rehab. And I was like, I'm more interested in this wholesaling thing, you know? And so we did do a few flips, but it was his, and I love him. We're still friends and we still work together, but it was his objective to learn as much as possible about the flipping process and get as dirty as possible so that he could, you know, like it was just like, I want like for your first flip, you know, like let's get in and out, right? And we're moving walls, we're doing this and that, and then and it was a little too much for my first one, and then after that it was easier, but you know, like I just like wholesaling. It's quick, it's on to the next one, and then when you do add the flips into it, it's a whole other complexity of your business.
It's a separate business. There's two different businesses. I'd say this to people. Yeah.
It's completely 100%. And so, you know, we're smaller, and I am, you know, my husband has started working with me now, and he's really interested in doing that component. And so if that's the case, then, you know, I am open to it, but wholesaling is, and I feel like I'm able to get my sellers more with wholesaling anyway, too.
Yeah, that no one talks about that too, because if you know the market really well, like, you know, some guy will pay 105 of like the value and you can get it for like 90 and you just kick your ass.
Right. If I'm buying all these, like I'd be super conservative, and I can get in and out of pretty much any house and make 30K like that. And they could have a higher offer than what I would have given them.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. With flips, we have, I've done a good amount of them, and just I call it adult daycare. And for me, it's virtual adult daycare because I'm not living, you know, in New York. And, I tell people, you know what, if you're flipping houses and taking deals, like if you're closing on real estate, I just call it like closing on real estate. That's a whole nother business. You got to understand how that works. You got to really know the real estate business. Yes. If you're wholesaling, it's really lead gen, conversion, how to scale your campaigns, et cetera. So, you know, I think that's a great tip for the listeners, is really understand that there is a big difference and they are two businesses. And if you want to do that, you got to have two very different skill sets, or have a partner that can kind of complement the other, you know, skill set.
Yeah, 100%.
So let me ask you this. The biggest takeaway, I've listened to an interview with you and one of my homies, like Michael Pinter. I mean, me and that guy freaking talk daily. He's the man.
He's awesome. He was
awesome guy. Yeah.
He was one of the first people, like, you know, going into an investor field, there's 100 people. So it's hard to really, for me at least, to learn everyone's name at first, but he was like the first person. I'm like, that's Michael Pinter. Like,
he's super cool. Yeah. You got to come to New York one of these days and hang out with Michael and I go back there like once a month. So you got to come to Long Island and we'll all hang out, you know, bring your husband and we'll go out and we'll have some fun in Long Island. So it's like another planet. Have you been to New York before? Have you been to the East Coast?
Yep.
Okay.
I've spent a summer there for like a month. It was halfway in New Jersey, halfway in New York. And then I've been there, I think 2 other times for like a week trip.
Yeah. It's interesting. Fantastic. When I moved to California, I was like blown away with the fact that people lived in California. Like it seemed like fantasy land out there, like golden promised land. And like, I remember the first time I went to LA, I was probably like 19 years old and I was looking at the Hollywood sign and I thought it was a dream and it wasn't reality, because I've seen all these pictures of this California place and I was like, holy shit, it's the Hollywood sign. Like I'm in California. And like, people are like, they're like, are you smoking crack? Like, I mean, it's common in LA, but like, you know, you're still in America, buddy. So anyway, it's like New York people think California is like the promised land. And then I'm sure it might be, I guess, similar people on the West Coast are like, oh, you're from New York City and places.
Yeah, you got like the two coolest places of, and polar opposites too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They couldn't be more different. So anyway, so the biggest thing, like when I listen to your interview with Michael, you have been able to master SEO from the ground up. And listening to that interview, I was very impressed with how you were able to do this in a reasonable timeline in LA, which is very, you know, difficult. I mean, in terms of like, you know, it's a high-end market, it's expensive, there's investors there. So like, my question for you is, obviously this would be a 4-hour podcast, so we'll cover the high level stuff today, but like, what made you kind of get into SEO? And then like, how did you like systematize that to where like in 6, 12, 24 months, you were actually ranking, you know, on the first page and getting leads and making money? Because that's very impressive. And, you know, that's a very, very valuable skill set that you have.
Thank you. That's so nice of you to say. And honestly, I think I think it was more, what's the word I'm looking for? It was just like, I was naive, it's like, oh, I just, I didn't think of it as such a, well, I mean, I did know it was a challenge, but I think, Trevor Mock with,
great guy.
yeah, he had a really big impact on me, and just like listening to some of his videos, he just kind of gave me, he was like, you know what, anyone can do it in any market. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I might have a harder market than most, but like, it's a matter of time. And he said something to me that just really resonated. He was like, SEO is the only lead gen strategy that's actually going to get cheaper over time. And I was like,
yeah, that's true.
That's what I want to do, and I think that my personality and just so I'm definitely an introvert, and I like just kind of like doing introverted thing, like I'm good with
deep work focused on the computer versus like on the phone all day wheeling and dealing,
Exactly. So if I can geek out and just like, figure this stuff out, and then people can come to me instead of me having to like hammer on the phones all day.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan, so that was kind of what turned on the lights for me and got everything spinning. And I just, I kind of found it fun. I liked I'm a somewhat creative person. And so I did like the aspect of like kind of designing your website, because a lot of times, people, because Carrot does give you a very nice template to just like get you going, and and at least puts the foundation there, and you don't have to spend too much time on it. Right. But that was one of like the funner parts for me. I was like, well, I want mine to be different. And that was a huge thing too, is because even in LA, like all of the top sites were Carrot. And I was like, but I want mine. I don't want my site to look like everybody else's. And so I was willing to like put in some time to like make mine be a little bit more unique, so that kind of got me, I think that helped. And that's one of my biggest pointers that I always try to give people, is that try to do something to make yours unique, and don't just use what Carrot gives you. You don't have to go all out with some of the stuff like that is possible with doing with it. And you don't need to get, if SEO isn't your thing, then just hire someone else to redo your site. But original content is just so important, especially with how pretty much every real estate investor, 9 out of 10 probably has a Carrot site. So when you're using the content that they give you, it kind of weakens. Google just sees it as a duplicate content. Google duplicate content. And so it's going to make it really hard for you to rank.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I've had VAs that have been working on my site for years in the New York area. And, I actually bought, it's funny, SEO story, I'm sure you did something maybe similar, but I basically was like, well, you actually did the work. I was too lazy, right? And I was just like, not ready to do it. I'm like, I had too much shit going on. So I said, VA number one, I'm buying you this Carrot course called 3 Leads a Day, and just go through this and do what it tells you to do. Yeah. And in 6 months, I started getting leads. And like this year, we've done some absolute fat cat, massive whale deals from SEO. Yep. And like Dan Kennedy said this quote in a book. He said, you want to be a welcome guest, not an annoying pest with your marketing. And those people are coming to me with a problem that they already have that I didn't have to discover. So the type of conversation it's a totally different dynamic, would you say?
100% different. You have people that, and my biggest thing too is like with cold calling leads, those are people that require a lot of follow-up. They're not somebody that you're gonna like, they're like, hey, I mean, every now and then you'll get someone like, it's funny, I was just talking with my husband about this last week or something like that, that, but it's not someone that's like, oh my God, come over to my house right now, I need an offer. So it's they're like, they take at least, I mean, I'm not currently cold calling right now, but they just take more follow-up. It's more babysitting. And that's not how, if I could have less of that and more people who are like, come over, give me an offer. Right?
Give me an offer. I need to sell this thing tomorrow. You're like, yes, I will be there making you an offer. The thing I've noticed too with cold calling is like, you just said it like perfectly. They're in the beginning of the buying process. They're not like at the end. And with online leads, whether it's PPC or SEO, they're at the tail end of their decision-making process and they're ready to make a decision for the most part. That's why they're reaching out to you.
Yep.
So the conversation, like I'll give you an example on an SEO deal. And this blew my mind. I literally almost fell out of my chair when this guy called me. He goes, or he filled out a form. This is before I hired Brett, who does all the sales now. And he's like, hey, I'm an ER doctor in South Carolina. I got this house in Millwood, which is like bougie, like Bill Clinton lives down the street, Westchester County, New York, like ridiculous. He's like, I just want to sell it as is. My dad used to live there. He moved down with me. We saw your site. I'm going to sell it at a discount. I know you got to make money. He like sold himself before I even made him an offer. And we wholesaled it, made like 40 G's on it. And I'm like, this is an ER doctor. So people think like that this motivated seller, as Michael Pinter would say, is like a knuckle dragging Neanderthal. And they're like desperate and they have no, like these people for the most part in our markets, like California, New York, Phoenix, they're pretty savvy. Like they kind of know what's going on and they're trading equity for speed and convenience. And the best quality leads that I've seen are online leads for sure.
100%. And especially with like they're just so much more open to giving you information. Like if you're cold calling someone, they're like, well, so why do you want to sell? They're like, you called me.
You called me.
I don't want to sell, you know? So, but you never get that with these other ones. They give you everything you need. They tell you who else they're working with, what other offers they've gotten. Like they're ready to sign. And the nice thing is too, even on ones that you don't get, there's still less follow up with it because they're gonna sell. So then it becomes, I don't like the endless amounts of follow up. And so a no is better than a maybe, right? So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. They're like, it's either like under contract or sold to someone else or listed on the market, like depending on what it is, but it's not this dog and pony show to get them to like give you a decision.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's so, and I feel like a newer investor, this is like really, I guess, an action tip for new investors. If they commit to really mastering SEO, they don't have to be the best salesperson in the world because their marketing is doing a lot of the selling for them. So that actually makes them get momentum. Yeah. I'm not saying you're a bad salesperson at all, but I'm just saying like,
I'm letting you know that that's me.
No, but the marketing helps. It's all about like the marketing almost sells the prospect. So then when they actually reach out to you, like, it's not like this crazy like conversation, like they're already kind of pre-sold. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They've had a chance. And not everyone, you do get a lot of people who they just went down the list and they called the first, submitted information to the first 10 people, but you do. And I see this a lot with, especially with women, they're very like, because they're not trusting everyone. And especially like they found another woman doing it. And it is just more like, they've had a chance to interact with my videos. They've gone through and read testimonials, and a lot of them, they've already decided they want to work with you. As long as you can give them what they feel is a good price, like there's no shopping around. They've decided that you are who they want to work with. That
is so true. And I actually had a seller, an SEO, we're in contract now. And he was like, he was going to go call a competitor. And I said, listen, Bob, I guarantee you Bob's not listening to this, but if he is, Bob, you're famous now. I said, what would it take for you to sell me this property without calling the competitor who happens to be my friend? And he's like, if you can give me this price, I'll give you my word right now. Yeah. And we did a deal. So it's like right there, and people get scared sometimes. They're like, oh, well, online, they're calling 5 people and you're like at an auction. I'm like, no. Yeah, that happens sometimes, but that happens with any marketing. And when they like you, they'll just drop the phone and won't call anyone else. Like you said.
Yeah. 100%. Yep. And especially too, I was talking to someone yesterday. She had dropped her information to a bunch of people and I had followed up with her and she told me, hey, can I call you back in 10 minutes? I said, no problem. Didn't hear from her, called her the next day. She was like, I signed with someone. I was like, no. But I ended up having a conversation with her. And by the end of this conversation, she was like, well, do you think I can like cancel with the other person? I was like, no, don't do that. Just like, but work through it. If it's, and I was trying to explain to her about, okay, so he has a 5-day inspection and kind of just coaching her on like how to make sure he does actually close and what you can do if he's not fulfilling his things of his obligations from the contract. Right. And she was like, oh, I really wish I would have called you back when I said I would.
Oh, was it in LA or Phoenix?
Phoenix.
Oh, that's like cutthroat
talking
market.
to her. Yeah, I'm talking to her on Friday, tomorrow. So we'll see if, but yeah, I was just like, no, don't. Cause I actually just had somebody who canceled on me. And for, oh man, it was a pretty hairy deal. She called me, she told me how much she wanted. I gave her, it wasn't what she wanted, but I told her that, we can close as quickly as she needs.
Yeah.
Put it into contract. I had EMD in the next day, had already assigned it, $55K.
Phoenix or LA?
LA.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yep. And had I had everything in escrow. This was like legit. And my buyer calls me. He was like, "Hey, Cristina, are you trying to sell that property to someone else?" I was like, "No, like I would never, I wouldn't." He was like, "I didn't think so, but my sister just put an EMD down on the same property." I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, to the one in Garden Grove. And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, let me call the seller. Cause this property was actually listed. And so I was like, let me call the seller. She's not answering me. She won't answer.
Oh, she went Casper on you.
Mm-hmm. And then I text her, I'm like, hey Ida, is there any, like, can you please call me? I'm getting some concerning information. She texts me, "Sorry, sold it 700. I had offered her 660. And I was like, excuse me. I was like, you can't do that though. Like, we have an agreement and we have everything in escrow. And she was like, well, I can't remember her logic anyway. So I put a Liz pendants on the property.
Oh, yeah. Now we're talking. That's Hellbeck style. We take it to the cleaners. Yep.
Yeah. I called my lawyer, had her put a Liz pendants on the property. And then sent that over to the escrow and everything. So I'm like, okay, like we're chilling for a little while. I asked and then my buyer calls me. He was like, "Hey, is there any way, like, can I get my EMD back?" And I told him, I was like, well, if I give you the EMD, the Liz the Liz pendants is gonna.
Yeah. Cause it's his contract now. Cause you assigned it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, I was like, "Here, can you give me a month? If it's not settled in a month, I'll just give you your 20K so we can leave everything in escrow." And he was like, okay, no problem. And then like, this was last week, then he calls me and he's like, what does he say? Oh, he was like, "Hey, Cristina, I found out that property sold. Can I just get my EMD? I was like, "You're kidding." And he was like, "No." I was like, "To your sister?" He was like, "No, to someone like," he was like, "I think it's a Lou or something like that." And so I look and the property's still in her name, but I looked on the MLS and it's showing the, what is it showing? The
Pending.
sale date. No, and not anymore. Cause at first it says MLS list date. Now it says MLS sale date and sold for $750. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah. And so I like call my lawyer, blah, blah, blah. So now we have a claim with the title insurance. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh my God. Can you sue the seller? That's terrible. Yeah. That people do that sometimes. Yeah. It's part of it.
Like she signed 3 different contracts and didn't like abide by any of them. So.
That's insane. Yeah. That's terrible. Well, I'll tell you what, in New York, if you ever want to do this in New York, by the way, what you can do, this is why New York is hard, but it's also one of the best states to do it in. If the seller does that, well, it would be impossible because with the attorneys in New York, it takes so long. Like that would it takes like 2 weeks to get into contract. So like it would be hard for her to do that. But if she were to do what you did in New York, you can actually sue her for the entire purchase price and she could be in a lawsuit for like $700,000 and you would win every time. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, really?
It's insane. It's impossible to get out of contract. When you're a seller and you sign and the attorney deposits your check, it is literally impossible to get out of contract. You will get sued for the purchase price and you will be in a lawsuit for whatever. It's absolute craziness over there. So
insane. Yeah, hers was. So my lawyer told me, she was like, well, now you have a claim with the title insurance, but I haven't seen what do they call it? What tells like Schedule A, Schedule B, and Schedule C. So I guess if the buyer bought it as an exception, then I have to sue the seller and the buyer. I guess I have some sort of claim.
It's you know what? It's interesting with that because I'm very aggressive with that kind of stuff. If the seller is like a dick, and in this case, obviously the seller's a major dick. Yeah. And I don't feel bad for like going at it with a seller. I'm like, listen, you said you were going to do X. I gave you X. You committed to doing X. And now you're trying to do Y. and you're going to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this was a few years ago that something like this happened to me, and I didn't pursue it, and I would have been making 50 on that one. And this time I'm like, and she was a little old lady, and I felt bad, but no, I've changed
No, you do a couple of those and you realize, like for me, the horns come out and I'm like the devil. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh
yeah,
my
I have a very legitimate claim to 55K right now, and I'm going to get it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't blame you. Now, what is like, so with that being said, what is your process look like? What do you buy these deals virtually, or are you like sending somebody out to LA? Cause like I do a lot of stuff virtually, even in San Diego, and like I live here. So it's like, it's kind of like easier, honestly.
100%. Even when I have leads in Phoenix, even though I'm there right now, I'm like, can you send me pictures? Like,
yeah, I don't want to see the house. Like, let's do it on the phone, you know?
I'm especially and that kind of started even when I was in LA. I started doing like a lot of my stuff virtual just because it kills a whole day
the traffic is a mess.
I don't have 6 hours to go on an appointment, right? And so I started just naturally doing a lot of stuff virtually. And then when I moved, I was like, I've been doing probably 65% of my deals anyway virtually, might as well just do all of them, right? And so now in Phoenix, I've been to one house in Phoenix since doing this, and I ended up getting that one under contract. So that was time well spent. But especially when people are looking online to sell their house, they're totally open to, you need pictures. That's part of the
logical
process. Yeah. And then, I've used like, when you have like an older seller who isn't, so savvy with all of that stuff, then you have things like let me look or whatever.
We go look and a mobile notary. Yeah, it's so much easier.
Yeah, exactly. I've sent mobile notaries, just whatever. And honestly, I'm actually in the middle right now of hiring an acquisitions manager. And I think I would like to try and start incorporating Zoom just to, I think, if I don't want to be on Zoom with people, but if I'm going to hire an acquisitions manager, then they can be on Zoom with me.
Yeah, it saves time. I did that when I was Brett's in training, so I was still doing some of the calls, and I did a Zoom call with a seller last week. It was hilarious. He had like his boots on, walking around the house.
Exactly.
He's like, "Why don't you want to come over?" I said, "Well, he doesn't know I live in California." I'm like, "I'm busy. I don't know."
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So that's awesome. So you're virtually doing deals in two of the toughest markets in the country. Now, what is your minimum reasonable wholesale fee look like? Cause I'm I love doing big deals. Like mass deals don't interest me. I'm just like, it's the same work for little money versus big money. So like, how do you kind of go about that with like wholesale fees?
Yeah. So, and I would say, I have done stuff on the outskirts of like, if something's not in LA and doesn't have as many comps, like I'll get stuff like in
Lancaster or something out there. Yeah.
In the boondocks in Lancaster, if it's Lancaster, like in a neighborhood, then that's
track home.
I would get have a bigger buyer pool for that than in like a high dollar something in LA, but stuff that's like out in the boondocks and, that I'm not real sure on my numbers because there's not a lot of
real comps.
Yeah. And so every now and then we will tie stuff up and let them, most of my sellers usually know that we're wholesaling it anyway. And I just
really, how do they know?
Yeah, because I tell them. I let them know that this really isn't for me. I have a really big buyer's pool though. I don't know if like what you want it's going to work kind of a thing. Like, I think we need more like at here, so I can still get it lower than where they're trying to be. And then I let them know, like, I'll email my sellers for you. And if it works, it works. And
that's awesome.
Buyers for you. And, maybe we can make something happen. And then in those, like, I have a deal earlier this year that we made like 6 on, and then others like maybe more at 10, but most of them are like at least 25.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, because the values are so high, you can make like a 25K wholesale fee. It's not abnormal because of the purchase price. That's awesome.
And especially lately in because I have a lot of buyers in California, like I have a really solid buyers list just because this has been my market. But in Phoenix, not so much. And so we've really been trying to only build relationships with like iBuyers, hedge funds, things like that, that are just crazy overpaying right now. And so there's one that if we would have purchased the property, we would have had to been closer to 200. And I had a buyer that would do 260. So yeah, so there's just like, and that's the 260 was like the ARV on it. I was like, how are you doing this? So,
oh my God,
there's probably a reason for that, right? Because we just heard that Zillow isn't buying anymore because they can't sell their stuff. So
yeah, because they're buying shit dogs. You know what I mean? It's like they're starting to pay for it now. You know.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. Well, that's awesome. I mean, you got a great business. You're in two tough markets. You're doing it virtual. You're doing the SEO thing. I love it. Are you doing any other marketing besides SEO, or are you doing paid traffic? Are you doing mailers? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing Facebook and some like Google display.
Okay.
We're doing Facebook and Instagram, I guess. And then what's the other one that we're doing? It's all
mail. Oh, it's web-based stuff. Yeah.
It's all all web-based stuff.
Yeah.
That's just because that's the leads that I like.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I do not blame you at all. Yeah, you get, especially in that market. I mean, in LA, what would you say? Like, do you have to probably talk to 15 leads to get a deal in LA, or is it less than that for you? Because I mean, that's a really, by the way, that would be a good conversion rate too. Like if it was like 15 to 1 or even
20. Yeah, 15 to 1. Yeah, sometimes I mean if I'm having a really, because it goes for like
it goes in ebbs and flows. Yeah, it swings.
Yeah, and at some points, I mean, there's some times where you're talking to like 12 people and you get 2 deals, but then and then it does take like a more like 15, 18 to so it does, you're right, it ebbs and flows, but yeah, I would say 15 is a good.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. And you're able to do it virtually. You got the SEO machine running. Now, if you were to, like, as we start to wrap the show up now, if you were to, like, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule and doing the right work, not just doing a lot of work, because a lot of work is obviously like mandatory, but doing a lot of the right work is really where the magic happens. If someone, locked you in a room and said, I need to know the 20% of things with SEO that are going to give me 80% of the results, and I need you to explain it to me in under a minute, what would you tell them to do? I know that's a crazy question, but they'll be able to take something right away from that.
Yeah. Well, so, and it kind of depends where they're at already and what needs to what would be most impactful to move the needle. If you're starting out, I would just say, always go broad. So a lot of people they want to start SEO and maybe they're in like some smaller market in Indiana or whatever. And they specifically just want, like maybe they're flipping. And so they just want stuff there. While that is that, and that's fine if that's your strategy, but you're just not going to see the lead flow from that. So I always like to say, so when you are building some of these landing pages, like building landing pages for the biggest demographic possible, or the biggest, the widest impact. And so that's why I think SEO really does work very well with the wholesaling model, just because you can collect more leads that you're not these random places that you would specifically target, but so having like a really, really good, or just going after bigger cities, or even a statewide, an entire state. And then just building some backlinks to that page, spending a lot of time on getting reviews.
That's huge.
So impactful. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, when I'm asking, like, what made you call me instead of other people? It's like, well, I really liked your reviews. It's always, and it makes sense. That's why people want to make sure you're legit. You're not going to take their property and stuff. So they need social proof, right? So having, that's really how you build authority. That's the most authoritative thing you can do, is have other people talk to you or talk about you and talk about how great you are, as opposed to you telling people how great you are.
Yeah, exactly. People will believe others before they believe you. Human nature.
Mm-hmm. So
that's awesome.
So spending time on getting like reviews and like video reviews, even Google and all of that stuff is important. And then just making it, I think that also proof that you can have on your website is like taking pictures. And it's hard for me, like, and it'll be hard for you too, because we don't meet our sellers, right?
No, yeah.
So what I've been trying to incorporate lately is asking people to like do just a quick Zoom call with me so that, you know, we can talk about your experience, stuff like that. But yeah, it is hard when you are doing virtual because you can't like go and be like, hey, let's take a cute.
Hey, Sally, what up? You know? Yeah.
Exactly. So, but maybe, yeah, I'm just getting an idea now. We could FaceTime and then, you know, like have the seller there and you, I don't know, you just need proof, right? You need
proof that it works.
And proof that you're talking to people, proof that they're having good experiences with you and have like, can say some good words about how you help them, you know?
That's so true. I love that. Phenomenal advice. And I'm going to share, to wrap the show up, I'm going to share with you a hilarious SEO story that you've probably never heard before. So about a year ago, I got this house, SEO, and we all like all the competitors in New York like know each other, you know, and like, you know, sometimes like I want to slit their throat and like get the deal, but sometimes I'm like, you know, just take it, you know, we're friends, but you know, everyone is very competitive around there too. So this seller reaches out to me, she reaches out to another one of my buddies. And I was like, I'm not losing this deal. Like, I'm going to get this house come hell or high water. So she ends up selling me the property. I wholesale it to my friend who's actually a competitor. So like, we probably got the same lead. He never admitted to this, but I actually have two stories for you because I could talk about this all day. So we do the deal. We wholesale the house. It was a base hit. It was a shit box, septic tank, the whole thing. So the seller, I'm like, I've never met this lady. Like, this is like, literally never met this lady. Never met her. She doesn't know me from Adam. I don't know her from Adam.
Right.
So I send her a selfie. I'm like, hey, Susan, I just got to let you know, like, I'm not some Nigerian scam here. I'm going to send you a picture of me in my office. Yeah. And she sends me back a picture of her with her pet pig. She's like, hey, nice to meet you too. And it's like this ginormous pig. It had this huge nose. And she's like, oh my God, this is my pet pig. I feel like I know you so well. I'm like, we've never even met. And she sends me a pig pic. And it was unbelievable. And
that's a great idea, actually. Even like sending a picture. And
I do that all the time now. With all the sellers we do deals with, I send them a selfie. I'll be like hanging out at the beach. I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, this is me. I'm a real person. And then they'll send me one back. It's so funny.
That's a great idea. I'm just doing that. Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
And like, really well.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Try it out. I'm telling you, you'll get some good feedback from it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I love that.
So one more SEO story and then I'll let you run. So this is honestly the most ridiculous. This might never happen again. So I'm just warning you in advance. Like, this is insane. So I get a lead. This is in January of 2021. I'm literally drinking with my buddies. We're like partying. And I like look at my phone and I'm like, oh my God, this is like an SEO lead, you know, it's Saturday night. I'm like, okay, I got to call this guy back like tomorrow. I don't want to like talk on the phone drunk with the seller. So I call the guy back and he goes, listen, I'm very motivated to sell this property. I just bought it in December. It's January right now. I need to sell this thing literally tomorrow. Like, he didn't literally mean tomorrow, but he's like, I need to dump this thing quick.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is absolutely the most motivated seller I've ever seen in my entire life. And he won't.
Why?
He wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't tell me what was going on. He refused to tell me what was going on. And I tried to like probe, but I didn't want to like kill the rapport and like have him like back away.
Right.
So he's like, I can't tell you what's going on, but I need to get rid of this property. Like he bought this thing in December and January, he's trying to sell it. And I said, listen, did you finance the property? He's like, yeah. I say, my offer is going to be like, literally, like, you're going to have to come to the table with like a shitload of money. And like, I was super honest with this guy. I said, listen, put this back on the MLS. And I'm like doing like, you know, like negative reverse selling or whatever they call it. But like, I genuinely meant it. Like, I wasn't trying to pull tricks on this guy. I'm like, listen, this is all over the phone too. I'm like, listen, put it on the market. I don't even want to make you an offer because like, you're going to have to take such a haircut. Like, and I'm serious. Like, you have time. This house is in good shape. He's like, I won't do it. I won't put it on the market. And I'm like, listen, if you sell to me, you're going to have to bring $70,000 to the closing table. 70. Like, he's going to have to pay me 70 grand for me to buy the house.
Yeah.
He comes to the table with $70,000 to pay the loan off, and we buy the house. And I was like, holy sh! And we closed literally in 30 days, which in New York is like impossible. And this guy, SEO lead, can you believe it?
And you still don't know what.
Don't know why.
That's insane.
I have no clue. And the thing is, my competitor friend offered him more money and he still sold to me because I was so honest with the guy. I'm like, listen, like, I'm going to buy this, but like, you're taking a huge haircut and I want to make, I told this, like in sales, the last thing you want to hear is think it over. I told this guy to think it over like 18 times. I'm like, think this over, make sure you're making the right decision. If you don't want to sell to me, there's no pressure. And he brought 70 grand to the table, sold me this house. And I could not believe it happened.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy? From SEO. He came to me.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, I digress. But the point of that story for the listeners is if you start getting good at SEO like Cristina, you're going to get leads, maybe not like that, but similar to that, where they're going to be really motivated. So this was a lot of fun. If people want to reach out to you, like what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? And number one, see your website. And then number two, like maybe connect with you on social.
Yeah, definitely. So my website is mrspropertysolutions.com. So MRS Property Solutions with an S at the end.com.
Excellent.
Yep. You can check us out there. And then, yeah, you can find me. I mean, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Cristina Kudlock, Kudlock. That's my last name. You can find me on all of those. Trying to think where else. You can email me at Cristina@mrspropertysolutions.com. So
awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes, and I'm sure some people will be checking out your website. And I really appreciate you coming on today. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Investor Fuel. Yeah. And we'll touch base soon.
Thanks, Greg. I had a great time. Talk to you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Pave the Way Podcast. We hope you got value from today's episode. Make sure you download Greg's free guide on daily personal productivity for free at www.pavetheday.com. That's Pave the Day spelled DAY.com. If you have any questions or want to reach out, head over to www.pavethewaypodcast.com. We'll see you on the next episode.